Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are stepping into a deeply creative aspect of our photographic journey, compositional ideas. Visual art is an umbrella term, and photography is a branch. One thing that is common is in the visual arts is the use of ways of seeing and composition. Whether you are taking a painting, sketching, or sculpting course, or a digital photography course such as this, you will encounter these compositional practices. These include frameworks such as the golden spiral, rule of thirds, diagonals, the pyramid structure, the S curve, and the L shape. Let's look closely at the rule of thirds first. The grid divides your frame into 9 equal quadrants, providing a highly effective visual sort of cue to help you compartmentalize your subjects and aspects around them. So by placing your points of interest along these lines or at these intersections of rule of thirds, you create this natural flow between the subject and the object and the environment, establishing the sense of balance and equilibrium. It is also an excellent tool for organizing light shadows in a much more concise and structured way. As you use this grid out in the field, ask yourself, how is the rule of thirds helping guide your own visual senses? So in this image, it's all about how rule of thirds composes and connects three distinct parts. First, the sky and the vast cityscape around it, and the central structure is the second part, and then the third is the streets around it, which situates the people and the surrounding environment. So it's a three structured layered. That's how some of the photographers might want to employ rule of thirds. But then rule of thirds can also be employed by this powerful choice, which is centered composition, which is anchored in symmetry. So rule of thirds is a great tool to also use to actually be able to create more coherence through symmetry. Here we split the frame into actually two equal halves, creating a form of tunnel vision that commands organized attention. So it is incredibly aesthetically pleasing because it offers a simpler arrangement of all elements within the borders of your frame. Particular frame is captured by cinematographer Robert Newman. When you look at this image with the level of precise compositional symmetry across various elements, it forces you to actually think about how it works on the viewer's eyes in a uniquely captivating, almost odd way. Now, beyond horizontal layouts, we should think about how height shifts the narrative. So think about the perspective of, let's say, shooting from below, looking up at a subject to alter its stature and presence, versus shooting from above, which is actually looking down to create an entirely different emotional landscape. So in shooting from below, you actually make your subject more powerful, awe-inspiring, larger than life. In shooting from above, it's actually about holding more power. You are observing a landscape that feels small and scattered. It situates you in a position where your perspective is larger than life and almost observational of the larger environment. You have more perspective agency than your subjects in this specific case. We can also direct our viewers' focus through structures and through compositional ideas like frame within a frame. When you locate an existing border within your environment and place your subject inside it, what does that frame within a frame signify? Now, to answer that question, we can think that the use case is that it builds a sense of mystery, isolation, or heightened focus. But let's sort of inquire, what does frame within a frame actually really means? It is called, as you just heard, frame within a frame, because you are framing your subject to make it stand out even more. The original frame is the screen of your camera, or the screen through which we view that image. So your laptop screen, or let's say you're interacting with a physical image, it's the frame that surrounds that image. So that's actually the frame that you're viewing the image within. And if within that image, if the photographer decides to find a version of a frame that situates the subject, then that's frame within a frame. Also, framing something gives it more importance. Think about photos in your house. Images that are framed versus those which are not. What is the difference? Think about it. Let's talk about drawing your viewer even deeper into that focus when we utilize leading lines in photography. The core characteristics of leading lines are that they naturally lead your vision. Command focus provide a distinct sense of direction and signal a clear orientation as they lead you both in and out of your subject and object. So working with them requires two simple steps. First, find a leading line in your environment. And second, incorporate that line deliberately into your composition. So you can find human-made leading lines everywhere around you. So it could be in roads, fences, boardwalks, bridges, row of bricks, lampposts, buildings, doorways, and window panes. Alternatively, you can look for natural leading lines, such as rivers, shorelines, incoming waves, sand dunes, trees, tall grass, cliffs, rocks, or even falling sun rays. When you take leading lines a step further, you find diagonals and triangles. These serve as advanced leading lines that organize elements by creating distinct geometric shapes around a single point of focus. This introduces dynamic tension and a unique sense of spatial orientation. So any image can be compartmentalized into squares and diagonals to break up a flat horizon and generate a compelling visual rhythm. Now I know that in my videos and as class, we have already explored how color combinations functions, but let's reiterate their core characteristics. Managing your colors is about creating harmony. Placing contrasting colors together instantly invokes a specific vibe, provides a much greater incentive for the viewer's attention, and leaves you with an incredibly visually pleasing result. Now, let's talk about how we can manage the physical boundaries of the frame, the concept of using space. So think about the area surrounding your subject. Why choose to leave a massive amount of empty space in a photograph? This is the study of negative space. Negative space in photography, design, sculpture, or any other creative pursuit is as important as positive space to your overall composition. It is entirely about finding the right creative balance. Simply put, positive space is the actual physical subject, while the negative space, often called the white space, is the area surrounding that subject. The latter acts as an essential breathing room for your eyes. If you use too little negative space, you end up with cluttered, busy photographs where every single element in the frame is actually screaming for the viewer's attention all at once. To organize these shapes with dynamic movement and complex symmetry, we can look to the golden triangles or even the historical golden ratio. The golden spiral method of composition has existed for over 2400 years. Originally devised in ancient Greece, it has been widely now used to create across countless types of fine art and architecture to create universally pleasing compositions, and it was particularly well employed throughout the Renaissance art in the 14th and the 15th century. In our contemporary practices, we can also use environmental elements to alter space through blocking. So these are great examples of street photography by photographer Eric Kim, where they block out distracting, cluttered elements of a room by positioning the back of a physical wall right in the frame. By doing this, the wall blocks out the chaos, creates clean negative space, leaves a significantly more interesting focused composition to look at. We can also create depth through a foreground blur. A blurred foreground adds immediate perspective to our photos, creating a beautiful visual representation of how we as humans naturally see in real life. To achieve this effect, locate your main subject and find surrounding objects situated closer to you. Place your camera so that the foreground objects fall completely outside your lens acceptable viewing zone. So by doing this, your lens will naturally lose focus on those near elements, keeping your main subject sharp while creating a very gentle contextual frame. You can pair this spatial depth with your choice of lighting, analyzing how hard light cuts sharp, dramatic lines in a portrait versus how soft light diffuses smoothly across a subject's features. As a final thought on composition, remember that the standard rules we study are not rigid laws meant to restrict you. These rules may actually be manifestations of our internal aesthetic preferences that actually come naturally to us. If you look closely at some of your own favorite past works, perhaps, you may realize that you were already utilizing these exact rules of composition through some sort of intuitive internal sense of aesthetics and personal choices. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until then, catch you in the next session. Take care.